Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Green Nation podcast. Welcome to it. Sundays, a little bit sweeter. October 1st, a little bit brighter. Uh, I think I got paid today too. Just, just everything's great after a mean green.
Everything's coming up, Adam.
Yeah, over FCS Abilene Christian. I mean, I gotta say, uh, I was a little bored during this game. And I'm a football fan, all the other good stuff, but from the period from about like midway through the third quarter to midway to the fourth quarter, not a whole lot happened. I think there were more three and outs by than any than all the three and outs of the game happened at that point. It seemed like, um, but other than that, my favorite points. Hey, 80-yard touchdown pass. You know, lots of running, no quarterback mistakes. I mean, of the kind that get people fired or benched, like interceptions or fumbles or something. Um, a win, a win is good. Outside of that, did we learn a whole lot from Abilene Christian coming to town? I think not. Um, that's my take. That's my just quick off the top. Uh, Aldo, uh, man from Seattle. How do you feel about these things, this game, and how was your read of it?
I mean, yeah, like you said, there's not a lot of takeaways other than reinforcing the fact that we have one of the worst defenses in the nation. We've got a great offense, and things are clicking really well with Rodgers under center. Um, and he looked, and against an FCS squad, we're trying to get things polished, trying some things out because of, it's one of those cleanup games that we start off during the year. It happens to be the what was it, the fourth game of the season?
Yeah.
Um, and so it's a little strange to see it this late in the season, but yeah, yeah, same thing. It's I'm still concerned, but that concern was already there. It's no surprise. Um, well, it's gonna be a boat race from here on out. Is all I can say.
So yeah, this is the tough part of the schedule, and the announcer, on the broadcast is it James, whatever. It's funny because I came in a little bit late. I was doing some dad duty. I was taking care of my own children. So when dads do that, everybody gives them undue praise. So I'll take your undue praise. Um, my wife had a work thing at the St. Louis Cardinals game. And so she had amazing seats. She was basically like the catcher, you know what I mean? She was like right next to the catcher. And she's called down. But I guess the rest of the work group they didn't really care so hard. And they're just like talking. She's like, "We're like right here. I know the Cardinals not good, but I mean, it seems like it's good." Anyway, so yeah. Also, she was like, "Yeah, they just waiters. Life's better in those seats. I'm in the regular seats where you have to go beg for a hot dog. Like I think I got a hot dog somewhere around here, and they reach
Getting
behind you.
sunburnt.
Yeah, I'm in the regular people seats because I don't want to spend a lot on my tiny children who do not appreciate any of this. Um, but she was there in a good one. They're like, "Would you like another, you know, custom mega nachos, man, or something?"
Some great poupon.
Yeah, and she's living her life over there. Anyway, so I was over here slumming it with my children. And so I missed the start of the game. But the announcer's like James Westerling or something. And he sounded like Ty Walker at first. I don't know. I was like, dang, Ty Walker just left the ticket and now he's getting a play-by-play job. I was almost gonna tweet that as a joke, but then I was like, I gotta look this up because I'm really curious. Yeah, so it's not him, but it sounded to my ear like him. It wasn't. It's some other guy. But he was saying like like they talked to Eric Morris, and, hey, the way they do what's going on, and Morris, to his credit, he's very good at giving his message out, and he seems personable, and he's always like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna give you a little insight here." But it's the same thing to everybody, right? He told them the same thing. Hey, we gotta do tackling, and it's all the same stuff. And I don't know that we learned anything better, right? He said after the game too, like, it's tackling, we got better, we're playing in spurts. He said that previously. Um, I thought they played. spurtily. you know, they were in spurts. They tackled well in spots, and yeah, you're like, well, some of that was the backups guys. Well, that means that like there's nobody coming to their rescue, right? The only people that you can be like, well, I mean, these starters not tackling. Who else we got? The only people we have are the backups. So the backups are missing tackles too. Now you know why that other guy's a starter, right? I saw that, and I think this might be just red shirt movement. What's his face? Starling is he started at corner. He gave up a touchdown, but I thought he played okay. Um, you know, any observations out
Is
of
that
that?
the guy that got caught on the play action?
Yeah, he was kind of looking back and he turns around like, "Oh
Yeah.
no, oh no." Uh,
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. It's and there's probably going to be a lot of agreement. So this might be a boring podcast of because what we saw was pretty obvious, right? Pretty blatant the strengths and the weaknesses of the team going up against ACU. Um, the spurts on both offense and defense, I think. Pretty explosive on offense on a lot of drives, and then sputtered here and there. Just uncreative sometimes, and it might be because they were trying to kill the clock after halftime, just trying to, you know, pay that check to ACU and get out of there with that injury. And
yeah, and
the
I,
go ahead.
just a note on that, right? I don't, I'm interrupting you. Is it? I don't think that's bad because you have the ACC schedule coming up, right? So AAC schedule coming up, like you know,
No, 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 that's fine.
yeah,
But more to the point of you want to stay healthy. Um, you saw what you had in the first half. All right, guys, let's go home. Let's pack it up. Let's go home.
yeah.
And
The other part of that, right, is like a lot of people are not going to stay to the end, right? Casuals are going to come for the first half. You gave them a show in the first half. You gave them a show in that second quarter, or was it for whatever we scored 24 points in? It was the second quarter. Was it? It's over. You put on the show. You score some touchdowns when they go home. Like, yeah, I saw an 80-yard touchdown pass from Chandler Rogers to Jamori Macklin. It was great. It was amazing. I will go again. Do recommend
Mac
5 stars. Yeah,
Daddy Macklin.
yeah. Right. Go ahead.
So that's on offense and on defense. Yeah, we were aggressive in a lot of spots. Uh, and to Sunday's credit, the ACU's running back, he was good. No, while we are a bad defense, he's actually pretty dang solid. He was recruited by Washington, before moving back out to Texas, and he showed what he could do in running back. He did a great job. I don't know how long he'll stay at ACU, but he put on a show. But also on top of that, we were in poor positions, poor tackling, and he was running all over us. So more of the same there. I think we showed a lot of promise in some areas, in the aggression, getting to the quarterback and stuff, especially, after some time after their starters were wearing out and the depth was starting to show. I appreciated that. I enjoyed it. Something that I want to see translate to in conference games against guys like Memphis and SMU and stuff. Um, but yeah, beyond that, not much more to comment.
Yeah, I think um, you play one of these. Like, what's the benefit of playing an FCS game mid mid year, right? Week 4, like you said. I think one, it sort of gives your body a rest that it's coming off a bye. It's great, and this is sort of a scrimmage. And like again, not to knock ACU because yeah, they play football. They're on scholarship, like you said. They have some talent. They have some dudes out there. But I think the overall test of your bodies is not that great. And you saw there's a lot of backups out there. Like in that way, if it goes the way you expect it to go, um, a lot of guys get a lot of rest. You get to see some other options, your depth, and you have a large margin for error. It's really what it is, right? So you should win, right? You have an advantage. You have an advantage. Uh, you have an advantage, and like they took advantage of it.
So I think what I could add there is that, or at
Sorry, my
least,
my kids
um,
trying to attack me here. Like,
No, I get it.
I got-
Mine got up and he's now playing Xbox over there, so he's all set. Um, it's 6:30 in the morning. What am I gonna do? Um, so yeah, what we saw was that the our starters were definitely better than ACU's, but our depth struggled at an F against an FCS squad, and I think that's where the concern might be if any of our starters start going down, getting hurt, or anything like that, then what's bad will only get worse.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, you said it. No injuries in this one. At least that we know of, right? I think they might have pulled some dudes, but it looks to us like it's like, well, it's just let's get guys some play. The other thing is like 12 receivers caught a ball, right? We saw some of like the sides kid, from Denton. Uh, I don't know that he's gonna play the whole season. Most of like if some of these guys are gonna play the whole season, you get four, right? You get four looks to keep your red shirt, and uh, I think it was like, let's see what he got, what he has. He looked good out there, right? He was, I think he was a leading receiver. I'm looking at it now. Yeah, 5 catches, 61 yards. It's one of those things where you're like, okay, well, I mean, he earned enough playing time. So did Starling. Um, you know, if you can do well against an FCS squad, like I said, there's room for error in there. Um, and again, not knocking him, but you have you have some opportunities. And if you can do well against him, then we can see, right? We see where you play. Then maybe you get a couple snaps, a few snaps against Navy next week, or whatever, right? And if you're doing well there, then hey, well maybe maybe you're good enough to compete this whole season, and we don't save your red shirt. Maybe we do, but you put us in a position to have to make a decision. So and there's that. I don't know that we saw a lot from anybody else. Like, did anybody else stand out to you, like receiving wise? Uh,
Receiving wise, well, I guess on the negative side was Jordan Smart dropping, having concentration issues, and on the flip side, Rogers dropping the passes into the breadbasket, and the receivers not, those 50-50 balls where the receiver should fight for the ball and catch them. We didn't have a whole heck of a lot of wins on during those battles, and we need a big guy that can handle that. I'm not saying like a Franklin sized,
yeah.
6 foot whatever, 220 pound, large receiver, small tight end that can fight those battles, but some kind of talent that can go up and get it. And maybe we have that on the roster. They're just not developed enough yet, but I don't know if we do.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the same difference, right? Like maybe you have the potential to have that guy, but right now you don't have that guy, right? Uh, yeah, I mean, I think they'd love to have a big 6'4" guy out there. You can, just kind of throw it up, win one-on-one battles. There's a few fade routes that just didn't complete. Here's the thing I like and I don't like. Uh, 7 targets, 2 grabs for Macklin. He had 2 catches, 110 yards. I think his 2 catches came in the first quarter. And that was it, right? There was the 80-yarder, and then like that 40-yard, down the field. That was a great play. But that was it, right? He was 2 for 2. And then 5 targets to him. The rest of the game, he didn't get it. We got to get away to get him the ball because he's explosive. And I know we're looking to do it, right? Throwing the ball to him. 5 other targets throughout the game, but we're over on that. So I don't know if that's. I think they made the comment during the game that you kind of he hasn't really looked toward him. I thought he was looking for him. He's going through his reads, and it's one of those things where you're like, wait, the offense is moving. It's fine, so we don't want to force the ball to anybody. But at the same time, I think it's a concern if our best receiver is not touching the ball, right? Like, are they scheming him out? If somebody else is eating, that's fine. But if it's gonna be Smart dropping some passes, that's not so great, right?
Right.
But then we're playing into their hands. That's what they want. So let's throw the ball to Mac. Let's throw him a shorter pass. Let's hand the ball to him. Even I don't care something. Let's get him the ball.
Yeah, yeah. And I see what you're saying. I did notice that he was getting double covered and stuff. They were it was pretty obvious that they've got two guys almost stacked on top of each other just to keep an eye on Macklin. And so there's two things there. That and then the run game was working so well that you just feed a day, and let's go home, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
but that opened things over the middle. We saw a lot of passing to the middle, and then some. And something another observation we made is passing out of the backfield, or not out of the backfield. I think there was the pass to sides when he went off to
Little swing route. Yeah, yeah, and
yes,
he got
yes.
it, and then yeah, that was beautiful. Yeah, so I think about like this version of the offense. So you can go back and read like the notes, like Dana was it Holgerson, yeah, and Sonny Dykes and stuff. Like they've given talks and they talk about their philosophy, right? And they're like, you know, in our offense, everybody touches the ball. That's the whole point of this offense is to make everybody a threat, right? Like at the time, in the 90s and even the 80s and stuff, the idea was like, hey, you need one guy, workhorse guy, hand him the ball, right? Maybe a receiver. And, this is our offense. We're going to give him 30 touches, 35 touches a game. Well, uh, the they didn't have a guy like that when they're coming up devising this offense. And like, what? How do we get the ball? And there's the famous thing like, well, I can throw the ball for 3 yards, and that the same as turning around and hand the ball off for 3 yards. Isn't that the same thing? Like, what is the net gain? It's the same stuff. Now, I mean, the answer is like maybe you're tiring them out, whatever. But you spread the field horizontally, vertically, right? So you have a vertical threat, horizontal threat. Use the whole field. Use all your receivers, right? All five guys, and put pressure on them. So there's a lot of pressure on the quarterback to find where the open guy is going to be. But there's a lot of stuff that's very simple. Seems very simple. It's like get open and throw the ball to the guy that's open, right?
Well, and
So
a perfect example of what you're talking about is ACU's very first drive, where they
yeah,
scored at what, three touches, maybe four.
yeah,
Um, yeah, where they spread us out horizontally and they attacked that way, and then boom, over the top, and you got a touchdown.
yeah. Well, yeah,
Um,
yeah, you're right. Like that play action stuff, right? Like the whole play action uh, idea is get you moving forward, right? Get your linebackers and everybody peeking in, taking a step, and then throwing it over the top. Well, that's exactly what, like, say the dink and dunk part of the air raid stuff. You're throwing the little Y stick all the time, the little, this little swing to the running back, and now a little wide receiver screens, and now you're stepping up, and then you pump fake it, and then you throw it over the top, right? Or you just get that built in all the time and do like RPOs, RPOs, RPOs. It's basically play action every time, except it's not designed. You just read them. You're like, hey, is he stepping up? Sweet. Pass over the top. There's a little skinny post. Or he's not stepping up. Hand off, right? And just make the defense wrong. It's like a pick and roll every time. So yeah, yeah. All of that said, the ball should be going to everybody. Those little swing passes, the touches to the running back, because you're like, hey, is our running back still gonna get the ball? You're like, well, he's only getting like 18 carries, but then he also got 5 grabs, right? So the running back position is still getting 35 touches a game, and it's still productive. You look at the total yards, like I don't have it in front of Nick sides. I don't remember him catching anything else, but stuff like that. But I'll say like swing passes. All right, we had 40 rushes, right? 40 runs of the ball,
mhm.
and Attaway had a catch. Johnson had a catch. And I'm looking through it as I'm there. I don't see. Day had a catch. That's 3 extra touches that they had. Catching the ball, move going forward, and then sides you can call that one like a running back type touch. So still productive, right? The running back still getting touches that are not coming from, hey, put the ball in the bread basket and I run to daylight kind of deal. And if that was arguably better, like get the ball in space where you can go do some damage. Like I like a day in space, and I don't like him necessarily having to run at 2 nose tackles or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and man, he is so fast. He just boom explodes up the field, and that's why I think you're right. I mean, he's got some talent between the tackles, right?
Yeah.
And obviously he's shown that in the past, but put him in space and he's gonna eat guys up. And there were some for I don't say formations, but some schemes that both Attaway and um, uh, Adeyi were out on the field at the same time, and so those were fun to watch to see where it's going, and that's the struggle, right? For or at least that's the goal to have the defense struggle to identify who's the guy on the play.
Yeah.
And so when you got him and Adeyi and Attaway and Macklin and whoever out on the field out in the same time, you're gonna make the defense have to guess, especially if you're running something like RPO, where Rodgers can keep the ball and man and just sprint down the field. Uh, and that's exciting. I think those are the bright spots on the offense that I'm looking forward to seeing as we gel better, as we start to get more um, refined in that area. And you know you see it. You see it. We've seen it all 4 games. How well at least the games that Rogers has participated in. Um,
Well, I don't want to knock the contribution of Stone Earl because I thought he did okay. He was
yeah,
like let's not rewrite the past, right? That Charles Chandler Rogers was non good against Cal. Like there was that series he had or whatever, he didn't look good. And I think they were like, oh, that was a receiver throwing a ball, but it didn't look good. And then he threw an interception. It didn't look good, right? And it apparently
yeah.
didn't look good in fall either because something was not right because he was not starting.
And my point is that it's just a different kind of offense, and
Yeah,
just with the added dynamic that Rogers brings, with his legs. You know, Stone Earl can run a linebacker over, but we've seen that. But he's not going to get around the edge and then boom, go up the sideline like Rogers can, and that's the difference there. Um, oh, what was I getting at? Yeah, so all the team is gelling together, and we see that on paper too, where North Texas offense either leads or is close to the top in the AAC with regards to the volume, right? The yardage in the air, yardage on the ground. Um, but it's also on the flip side, one of the worst on the ground, in the air, etc.
yeah. So I wrote about this right in meangreennation.com. It, www.meangreennation.com. It's the new one you want to go to. That look, Eric Moore's coming in. He was asked to do a certain thing. One, he'd be different than Seth Luttrell. Um, but specifically, it was win. We've seen a lot of offense, right? Like none of this is like, whoa, amazing. We got 500 yards. We've done it before, right? Like North Texas has done it before in the Seth Luttrell. Full credit to Seth Luttrell. Blowing out ACU, something we've seen happen here and then, right? It's not anything that is very impressive or different and unique. It's sort of expected, right? We're satisfied with it, but that's the price you pay is for wanting to improve as a football squad is that you're unimpressed by wins over ACU. Um, and so it's about like the quality of it, right? Like 532 yards. Again, we've seen that. That's good. That's an explosive offense, but we're just maintaining what happened last year. Last year, North Texas had a very explosive offense, and I think if you got a week 4 Austin Ani led squad last year, dropped them in against ACU this year, they do something similar and probably a little bit better, right? They probably put up like 700 yards. They were a machine last year, and against lower level teams, right? They put a hurting on Louisiana Tech and FIU, and who else did they play? Teams that are not good. Where they struggled, and this is where we're asking Eric Morris to do better, was against the good teams, right? Hey, this is a squad that could hurt you, and they'll punch back. Can we stop them, right? Um, I think there was a little hit or miss, and there's no obvious way that they're losing. I think 2 years ago it was like, well, North Texas is gonna get blown out by those kinds of teams. Last year it was like, well, hey, they gave him a little run. I think the high point was against UTSA on the road, right? Rivalry game, a team that was looking for revenge, and they came out. They had the lead. They had the go ahead touchdown, but they allowed the game tying score at the end of the game, right? That was the high point where you lost, but it was understandable, and the fans came away more impressed with your team than they otherwise would have, right? So that was the peak. Past that point, beating Western Kentucky, I think for a lot of people was not super impressive, but for me, Western Kentucky was playing very well, and they were the defending uh, CUSA championship game participant. They had an explosive offense. They were shut down. North Texas did a great job. So that peak, those 2 weeks of the peak. After that, it was a little meh, and they got back to the championship game, and really they got their behinds handed to them. Right, it was yet another blowout loss in a big game. In a hey guys, make some plans. You weren't planning on this game running on the schedule. Come out, come travel, come see the Mean Green and support. It was another letdown, right? All those bowl games we talked about that, the two championship games, blowout losses, too much. So when we're looking at Eric Morris, it's really about that. So beating ACU, not good. It's not crazy, but what we're saying is like, hey, when we play a Tulane, maybe UTSA again, Memphis, maybe. I mean, Memphis pretty good this year, and last year, Texas went travel to Memphis and you know um, lost the game for themselves. I think Ani had three turnovers. That was the cause of the 21-point deficit there was for a while. But in that game, we were impressed by the newly good pass defense, and the offense started being explosive. Um, so I don't know that there's going to be any of that there, any revelation. That one's at home. It's a little bit different, but it's the meat of AAC play. I keep wanting to call it ACC. It's the meat of AAC play, and that means like basically, hey, this is what you were hired to do, right? To compete here against teams that are otherwise better than North Texas, right? We want to see better against SMU. We want to see better against UTSA, and we want to see some kind of competitiveness in this league, right? We don't want to be embarrassed on national TV anymore. No more blowout losses. Uh, that's it. That's the question. This three and this it should have been 3-2, right? They shouldn't have fell on their faces against FIU. That was a big one. But we'll chalk it up to learning curve as a FBS head coach. I think we'll chalk it up as a learning curve of getting to know this team. He said that he's been real honest about it. He was like, "Hey, this team's won 7-7 or whatever, got to whatever." I don't know that I want to come in here like, hey, it's my way, their highway. They're not gonna. So I'm gonna be like, cool. You know your stuff. But we didn't get a lot of buy-in after they lose. Now it's easy to get buy-in, my way, highway kind of thing. 2 straight wins, right? So okay, I can buy that. I can get that. But that's
Yeah,
my take. Yeah,
and so to add to that, those games against UTSA and Western Kentucky last year, like against UTSA, you showed that you saw the grit, you saw the team coming together, you saw physicality. Against Western Kentucky, you saw scheming and you saw smart football preparation by the coaches. And I know it was kind of a skid after that. Combination of bad luck and bad in-game coaching.
and
Um,
injuries. Let's not forget. I think
yeah,
Adaway
and
got injured
injuries.
against
Yeah.
Western. Yeah,
And so, but you see the coaching coming together. You kind of see that at least from the scheme wise, against ACU, where they're trying to refine what they're doing, trying to fix whatever problems they've got, and give Rogers some confidence. And you saw that he was not afraid to go over the middle to guys, and most of the time on target. Sometimes they were a little crazy just because he was on the run or rushing through his throws or whatever. But you saw the scheming part come together against ACU, and the physicality's gotta show up at some point, right? And not just at the individual level, like I'll give it to Attaway and run guys over. I'm talking about the offensive line showed some push against an FCS squad. We're gonna start showing that against an FBS squad throughout the whole game. And while it is a gauntlet of games over the next several weeks, um, what I've seen against these teams these past 4 weeks is that it's getting some time to gel the culture and the philosophy and the buy-in that you were talking about. But I don't feel like we're the bottom of the barrel of the
no,
AAC.
I,
I
I
mean,
agree.
but we're not the cream, right? We're not going to rise to the top. We're not gonna be top three, top four team contending for the conference championship. But first year head coach, first year QB starting, a lot of new guys on there, and we're gonna be middle of the field. Um, it, Middle of the field, if you take into account both the offense and the defense, right? If we had an average offense, I mean, if we had an average defense, I think I'd be a little bit more excited, a little bit, hot
More
takey.
hopeful. Yes.
Exactly.
Well,
But
yeah, so speaking of right, just picking that up, right? We play Navy next week. They lost to Notre Dame, got blown out by them. Notre Dame is expected to be like a playoff contender. They're like 13th in the nation or something like that. They played Wagner, 24-0 loss. They lost to Memphis in like a close one. I think it was like a Thursday game. And then you had a South Florida, right? Lost last week. South Florida, we've seen is pretty solid. They're, a little maybe surprisingly so. They gave Alabama a little run. Um, so that's Navy, right? I think the worst team might be UAB, and I know a few people were like, "Well, at least we didn't hire the worst possible coach, right?" UAB went from a Bill Clark, who was winning championships and instilling this kind of disciplined, run the ball, play defense kind of team. Not super sexy, throwing the ball down the field or anything like that, but they're not really gonna beat themselves, kind of deal.
they had an identity.
Yes.
Put
Yeah.
down 7 linemen, run the ball.
Yeah, get a bunch of 30-year-olds out here and see if they can out physical you. And then all right, so then you move on to Super Bowl winning quarterback Trent Dilfer. And he's kind of a I don't want to call him a clown, but I'll call him. He's a little clownish in his activities. Like he's on the field, he was kind of, yelling at everybody, whatever. They are not doing as well. They are 1-4. Yeah, they lost to Tulane 23-35 yesterday. They lost to the Raging Cajuns. They lost to Georgia Southern. And I'm not saying Bill Clark would have coached them up into wins in these ones. But I feel like UAB would have been a different team in those. They seem to be out of all those games, right? Blown out by Louisiana, blown out by 14-point loss to Georgia Southern. It just doesn't seem like they're the same kind of squad. And then you got like East Carolina. I actually haven't watched them too closely, but they lost yesterday to surprisingly good Rice. Like Rice was terrible in Conference USA. They're always on the cusp of gonna be good, gonna be decent, but I think they just turned it up this year. Rice is actually something. Um,
Yeah, and whenever we've got time, I want to touch on Rice a little bit.
yeah, I mean, we talk about them right now. Let's talk about Rice.
Yeah, so it's I was not trying to think about them, right? Because Bloom is it Bloomgren?
Yep.
Um, he's had a ton of time to get this squad and patience by the fandom, by the administration to show results, right? Where our coaches aren't going to have that same kind of wiggle room. And but you saw him like when we would go interview him, he was always defensive about his philosophy and like we don't need all these guys. I can talk about Stanford and Christian McCaffrey and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And and he's always showed a solid squad. He's always given North Texas fits, and finally what he needed was that quarterback. So now they've got what 45-year-old JT Daniels out there, and he's put it together. And I'm thinking that they're going to make some noise this first year. They're looking pretty fun, and they're getting Houston to buy into their this resurgence.
Yeah, so I went to a Rice game a couple times because North Texas played over there, and for some reason I'm on their list, and so they keep sending me updates about their South End Zone update and whatever. Um, there's things happening over there. But so Rice lost to Texas 37-10. Not bad overall. Right? You think, maybe Texas could blow you out by, 70-0 or something like that. 37-10 was the final. They beat Houston in double OT. They went up 28-0 on Houston. Well, that's a more impressive thing. Then Houston came back. They would go to overtime and they win. So that's big. Newly Big 12 Houston. They blew out Texas Southern. Unimpressive because, FCS, all that good stuff. Lose to South Florida. It was 42-29. That game they were winning until JT Daniels went down, and then for some reason that South Florida just blew them out. But it was kind of back and forth. This past weekend, beat East Carolina at home, and so Rice is looking formidable. They're not on our schedule, so any future matchup would be in a conference title game. But I think just taking them seriously as a conference opponent is the thing, right? You're trying to figure out how good we are. Really, we need to see how good we are against Navy, right? That's next week on CBS Sports Network at 2:30. By the way, adjust your lives. accordingly. Temple, I gotta be honest, I haven't watched a lot of Temple. I don't know what's going on with them. You know, so we'll talk about them a little bit more when that comes. Yeah, as I suspected, they're not good. Lost to Tulsa, lost to Rutgers, lost to Miami. Some good squads there, I guess. You know, Rutgers maybe a talent differential, but yeah, not much to talk about in Temple. Can't even talk about the famous alumni anymore. Uh, yeah, Memphis. They've been pretty explosive. They have a running back. They have a pass game that I think any defense needs to take into account. And North Texas is still having trouble guarding guys. And so I think the Memphis OC is probably like, oh man, gonna slice these guys up. This is gonna be a resume builder
Yeah,
right here.
they're
But
salivating, and I think Memphis is pretty good.
yeah, so Memphis is good. Tulane, they were ranked. They're a good program. I think you were talking up their ability to run all over the place, and kind of worried about them. That's in 3 weeks. Yeah, UTSA they had a bye. They've been struggling, but that's a month away, right? It's the 11th of November, and so I don't know. I don't know that we should take whatever's happening to them right now as what will be. I don't know that anybody's healthy. They have beaten North Texas, a couple times. It would be funny though, is that we just beat them in Denton again. Like it just, you kind of wonder how good they're gonna be. It was like 2 years ago. They had their best squad. They were ranked, undefeated. They come to Denton and spank them up. And you're like, wow, that's amazing. Like then we go there, and we think, okay, we have a chance. They escape with a win. Um, Now they come here like, well, I don't know, it's gonna be a good game, and now that maybe they're on the downswing. It just it works out that way. That you just trading wins all the rest of the way. I think the series is in their favor, but that's only because we played in a championship game. Anyway,
Yeah,
big.
and I
Go
was gonna
ahead.
say it's just a fun matchup to do that, to go back and forth. You got people interested, and it's got all those the storylines are starting to build up there. Well, I don't
Right.
think we're rivals, but I want to beat them every single time.
That's kind of how you start the rivalry, right? Then you got SMU, Tulsa, UAB, right? So everybody's like, here's the thing that bothers me. They're like, man, October, that's like it's gonna you really learn about them. Yes, because that's the season, right? It's 4 games. You're gonna learn, yeah, because it's the AAC schedule against it, your league. You're gonna figure out who you are because you're gonna play the season. This is it, right? The final 3 games. One, there's only 3 games, right? So the next 4 games are yes, it's the bulk of the season team. It just sounds weird when people are like, yeah, these next 4 games are really gonna yes, it will. This season's gonna tell us a lot about the season. Yes, it will. um Navy, we're gonna learn about this defense next week. Discipline, tackling, it's gonna be important. uh, Navy's tough. I don't know if it's quite going to be the 72-64 game that it was for North Texas way back when in 2007, when I didn't go to that game because my wife was sick, and so I was like, all right, well, she wasn't my wife at the time, but she was sick. I was like, all right, I'll stay. I'll listen to the game on the radio, and it was just touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Yeah, I had to go to Sherman to do something with my wife's family, and the only way I could watch it was on the GameCast, the ESPN GameCast, where you're seeing the lines just go back and forth, and that's all it was, just like little line, then a huge line,
Yeah,
little line, huge line. I'm like,
yeah.
oh my God, this stressed me out.
North Texas could not stop that Russian attack, which was very 2007 North Texas. Like it was just it was awful. So let's hope for not another one of those. And so there you go, right? Like the point of all that going down the schedule and talking about those squads is that I don't know that North Texas is that far off, right? Like you said, I could see, hey, on our day, we have an explosive offense. If we can get the right stops, we can be in those games, right? Maybe they get an injury, maybe something happens. I don't know, right? Like maybe they're not clicking on offense or something, and you can say, well, maybe we have a chance. I think we would have felt a lot better if the squad would have got that win against FIU. 3-1 coming to this point, but that was always going to be the case. That was my prediction after the Cal game. Really, the thing is like in the way that they lost, right? Losing another game in this stretch wouldn't have been the end of the world. It would just sort of the way. Like, what have we learned in four games? That the defense has a hard time playing defense. What have we learned on offense? Hey, we have a quarterback that can explode, but that was something we expected or kind of hoped for, right? Like, if you're like, hey, man, Chandler Rogers came in and he takes care of the ball, doesn't throw interceptions. We're like, yeah, that's something. I think you were saying that, right? Like 64% completion percentage. That excites me when we announce him being the new guy. You're saying he doesn't throw interceptions, unlike maybe some current quarterbacks at North Texas.
Currently unnamed quarterbacks or previous quarterbacks. I mean,
Yeah,
it's I don't say a breath of fresh air, right? Because it's just annoying to say, but
but you already
it's
said it,
something that
so
it's something that we haven't seen in a while, and I'm eager for that because then it opens up the playbook a little bit more, where you're not um forcing things on the field, or you're able to do something different that you weren't able to do before.
yeah. So like I think another telling stat or something, right, is like seven first half drives, five scores, right? And then there would have been six scores if Noah Rauschenberg wouldn't have missed that field goal, the 41 yarder, right? Um, you know, not great, but you know, that's a scoring drive. How do you score so much? Well, you score every time, every opportunity, right? If you drive down the field and it ends with a touchdown North Texas or a field goal North Texas, you're not upset, right? Maybe you're a little disappointed or something like that. You don't want to get in Dallas Cowboy territory where you have terrible red zone offense, but you're scoring, and they've scored in every which way, right? They drive, they get into the red zone, and they pull out something, right, a little QB sneak, short yardage. Hand the ball off to Isaiah Johnson, let him do a little bully ball. You can also score from distance to Macklin. You can score in that middle range, right? Little slants to Damon Ward Jr. This all that stuff is good. A little screen, right? They did a little screen this one. Um, Good stuff all around. They can score in a variety of ways, and so you feel comfortable with that, right? And some mistakes, like the second half, like you say, got a little vanilla. Credit to their defense, all that other stuff. You'd like to see better execution, but I mean, whatever. They can get better next week. They're also coming off a bye, and so I feel like that always means they're just a little bit rusty. I don't know. So I'm not too upset about it. I feel like this offense is one of the best in the league, and I think you can see that statistically. But I think just in terms of talent, right? A veteran offensive line, a quarterback that goes through his progressions and um and has a cannon, for an arm. Yeah, he's fast, if not the fastest running a quarterback in the league. All that, right? Macklin, explosive. He's a I think he's the first back-to-back 100-yard yardage gained since Jalen Darden. What else? What other things am I remembering as I'm speaking right now? Adeyi balling out of control right now. He's on a two-game really good streak. I don't know. Like, I'm comfortable with that. I feel great about that, and I think we can all be. Yeah, yeah. Are they going to do that against Navy? I think they're going to score against Navy. Will they defend Navy? I think that's what we are all concerned about.
We won't talk about that. We don't have to talk about it.
No, I mean we can just enjoy the sun. Let me read some notes I got from the what you call it, first starts of the season. Landon Sides, Taylor Starling, Carson Knopp, Marcus Moore. We increased all-time series against Abilene Christian. 17-8-1 in North Texas favor. Last time we won 51-31 in Denton in 2019. I was like, the 31. I remember that at the time, the 31 points seemed like a lot, and then they basically go and do it again. 31 points again. We scored fewer, so I guess in that way it was worse. 530 total yards, the third time in as many games that we've gone over 500 yards. Like the one game we didn't was against Cal, and that was really a second half failure. 24 points in the first quarter, most points in a quarter since 1995. Ties the total from a matchup against Idaho State in November of '95, and last year's game in November against FIU. also known as FIU. Jamori Macklin, 100-yard receiving mark. Ayo Adeyi, 100 yards on the ground. Second straight game, had a pair going over 100 yards. And it was more than a season since accomplishing that. The last time they did that in November 2021 and a 49-7 win over FIU. So there you go. You talk about balance and stuff, right? I think we did have that thing where it's like, well, 400 yards rushing, or hey, what's the name through for 400 yards passing, and it was not really a balanced effort. Maybe I don't know. In this way, hey, 100-yard rusher, 100-yard receiver, right? 2 games in a row. And this is the air raid offense, right? Everybody gets some touches. Everybody gets the offense. Everybody gets to eat. Um,
I mean, 12 different receivers. That's pretty darn good. And then, oh, I'm trying to read how many rushers do we have. Um, Ayo Adeyi, Isaiah Johnson, Oscar Attaway, Keelan Horton had a touch, and got
yeah,
Chandler
little
Rogers.
screen.
Yeah, it was oh, what was
Uh,
that? Jet sweep.
yeah, there you go. That's what I meant. Back-to-back 300-yard games for Rogers. I don't have the stat book in front of me, but I think if Rogers has a chance in maybe his year or two here, however long he's going to be here, of reaching some of the Mason Fine, Austin Ani 300-yard games list. Like Mason Fine played 4 years here, right? So he has a lot. He has a lot of 300-yard games. A lot of them came in that 2017, 2018 season. Um, so Rogers has 30, 31 total touchdowns, like passing, but only 7 in North Texas. But he has 7 so far this year, which is great. I mean, he's
Yeah,
balling
through
out.
3 games.
Yeah. A day's 42-yard run in the second quarter, his longest of the season. He's 20th in the all-time list, 1,595 yards. By the way, Attaway only had 31 yards rushing. It seemed like he had more. So did like Johnson. He only had 39 yards, but he had two scores. All right, so quick question for you. Let's say you're a running back, and let's say you're fast, right? Would you rather have on your at the box score at the end of the game? You scored 2 touchdowns, or you had 100 yards rushing. Like you
Oh,
have
I
to
don't know.
choose between.
If I was fast, I think I'd rather have the 100 yards, right?
No.
Although, yeah, I mean, the goal is always to score touchdowns, but for me, if I had the volume and the yards
Yeah, I
on
mean
how
it's all about touchdowns, but yeah, I mean I think the 100 yards is like it's a big mark.
on
Uh,
13 touches.
yeah, I forgot that Damon Ward had 2 scores. I mean, I'm a big fan of his because I think he played real well at was it UAB last year where he was just catching everything. He has great hands. He doesn't he catches it like with his hands. I think in this one he like dropped it, but he caught it and he scored the touchdown. He had 2 scores in this one. One was that little screen, and one was the little in route um, later on or earlier on. Forget now. They're all running together.
Yeah,
How about Nick Naquistad's like decleater there?
that was
That was
awesome.
that
Even
was
the announcers were like, "Oh,
yeah, everybody was hyped about that one, and they're like, "Oh, okay, was it targeting or something? We gotta check it out." But yeah, so he was the guy that was recruited last year. He came in, and his whole deal was that like he was supposed to be another defensive back for that defense, and he got hurt, right, and so he didn't play all season long. I think he would have helped a lot. I think everybody was like, "Oh, we just keep recruiting guys from the Citadel. We need better guys." Nick Nack was also supposed to be one of those kind of guys, but he was still like an FCS transfer or something. Anyway, long story short, it's good to see him play, and he led the team in tackles with 6. Good for him. He had a highlight play. I think we're hoping for more from him because he was supposed to be a big part of last year's defense too. Who else was it? Jordan Brown had 5 tackles. Marcus Moore 4. Mason Richards had a sack, right? Yeah, he had a sack, and Kevin Woods had a sack too. Um, you know,
is
I,
there is out of curiosity because Mason Richards has a lot of sacks. Is there like some kind of all-time sack leader stat sheet for North Texas?
I think there is, but I don't remember who it is or where what that number is. I mean, we could look it up. That'll be next for the next podcast. So there was a note in here, and I kind of lost it about Lorenzo Thompson being the last receiver. Yeah, all right, here it is. Landon Sides finished with the team high 5 catches. His 5 catches were the most by a true freshman since Lorenzo Thompson had 5 in the 2020 Myrtle Beach Bowl. I remember we were excited about him, like, hey, freshman, he's kind of stepping up, doing some things. By the way, Lorenzo Thompson is now a defensive back, and in this game had 4 tackles, including 4 stops and a pass breakup. There you go. He's there. All right, let's talk quickly about some things we don't like. That kind of stood out is that their receiver caught 3 scores, and he was counting them off. He was like, "That's 3." He was bullying our corners. I think I saw like Tejada didn't really get a lot of playing time. I think I saw him out there. They were looking at Starling, and it could be any reason. That I was mentioning this in response to what like Morris was saying, that he had to bench some starters, against Louisiana Tech or whatever. It's hard to see when anybody does that in football because like substitution patterns and starting and whatever. It's like so situational, right? Like, it's matchups, it's people being injured, it's people playing their the way they're playing at the moment that I don't know that, like somebody gets benched in basketball, it's real easy to see like 1 of 5 guys. But 1 of 11, and then they have so many situation packages that you're like, I don't know. Was there a guy missing? I didn't see him. I think the main ones like quarterback, maybe running back, receiver, your best guys. That's obvious. Uh, and I mean, to be honest, I don't know that anybody stood out so well, so much on defense where you're like, well, these guys were obviously game changers, and they're not there, right? It's like, well, who's missing the tackle this time? Oh, it's a different guy, different guy missing the tackle. Hey, who's getting burnt over the top? It's a completely different guy that's standing there looking at the ball fly over his head. It's a different guy. So it's hard to say who was out there. Now, I mean, I'm joking and stuff, but like, I don't know. I know that they're still working on who they're gonna get out there. I thought, like you said, ACU has talent. Sunday was good. I was it their receiver that caught all those passes. What was his name again?
Blaine Taylor.
Blaine Taylor.
He's 6'5", over 200 pounds, by the way.
And I think that's one of those things where like you're like, well, he's actually good, like that's the argument that you can hear. I mean, he's 6'5", he actually had offers from. Yeah, that's our point. Is that this is a guy that could play for an SMU, for a UAB, for they got 6'5" guys over there too, and the whole thing is like, well, we they're not just a scrub out here. Yeah, we want to be able to stop good players from doing that against us, and this was evidence that they were not able to stop good players. So that's what we're upset about. Like, man, you couldn't stop this guy, but we can stop some of the other guys. So we won this game, but are we gonna be able to win the next one? Because like Tulane has 2 guys that can damage you. Memphis has like 3 guys that can damage you. Everybody has good players, right? We couldn't stop what's his face? Um Smoke Harris, right? And he's 47 years old.
Yeah, 5 foot nothing.
Yeah. So I mean, those things, but are concerning, right? You got to look at that and wonder about those kinds of things. 21 carries, 140 yards for Sunday, 6 grabs, 85 yards, 3 scores for Blaine Taylor.
Yeah,
And Blaine
and I
Taylor
don't.
sounds like a country singer.
Yeah,
Go to the Blaine Taylor show.
100%.
Yeah, he played 3 of his hits. It was great. No, go ahead.
Um, I don't think we'll see much reprieve there on defense. You can scheme those types of guys out as much as you want, and defensive coordinators are going to watch that game and say, okay, this is where we can really expose North Texas over the top or whatever. There's only so much scheming you can do. You got to have the players to step up and do that. And like you said, I don't know if we've got those guys that will be stepping up, those superstars. And as good as Tejada is, he's 5'10", 5'11",
He's 5'8".
5'8". All right. So you got a guy that's 7 inches taller than him if I did my math right. No, more than that. 9 inches taller than him.
Yeah.
You can't ask him to
Yeah. Yeah.
defend that successfully. So we've got to get the right guys in. And last year we talked about Mason Richards a lot, and he's kind of been quiet this year. But they'll show up in flashes. There'll be a guy like, oh, who's that guy? I don't recognize his name, but then you never hear about him again, and they'll disappear. Um, for one reason or another, right? Maybe they're like, oh, scared. I don't want to go against him. Let's just pick on that other guy. That's probably what it is. And but yeah, I don't see any superstars on defense, and we may not see something unless somebody just shows up.
Yeah, I mean that was the thing with like the Murphy twins, right? They came in as linebackers, and I think they said they sucked. They were not good. And then they put them as pass rush dudes mid-season, and then they started wreaking havoc against everybody, right? And that was kind of the big jump. Like it doesn't say it's like it's hard. Football is difficult, and like there's so many moving parts that you don't know that you know, it's true they were not good at linebacker. But how much do you say, okay, well, maybe this linebacker could be a great defensive end, right? Credit to the staff for doing that. Credit to them for keeping on, and they made a little name for themselves right at UCLA now. Like there's a lot. Everybody knows the guy. Like, man, coaches didn't like me, and that's why I didn't do anything. It's a joke, but I think there's probably some truth in all of that, right? Like, but also I mean, were you good enough? I don't know. You don't have infinite time, right? And so, like, you have a week. You only have 20 hours with the team. You have to prepare for the next week, and so your job is not to maximize the individual brilliance of any given player. It's to make the team better, right? So there's a lot of times that yeah, you could have been, 15 touchdown running back, um, and whatever, but we didn't need that. we needed we need somebody else, and we won the whatever we needed to win, and so you didn't get to shine the way you wanted to shine, and that's that, right? It's the same way as like Blaine Taylor scored 3 times, but they lost, right? So it wasn't good enough. They needed something else. Maybe the answer was don't throw it so much. I don't know. You know, um, doesn't this analogy's not going where I want it to go, but um, my point is that like I don't know if we have the talent to compete in the AAC right now on this squad. And it could be that they're there, but they're just not being used in the way that would make them most effective, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think what we need to do is make a splash this season. It could be on offense. We're gonna have to hang everything we've got on the offense in order to make that splash. Get guys excited to come here. I mean, it's the same storylines we talk about every season, but we also have to improve recruiting, invest more, have more maturity on that staff in order to bring in the right guys. Because so far, the guys that are clicking are mostly guys that are from the previous regime, except for Chandler Rogers.
Yeah, so like that's the deal about like the defense. I think I said it somewhere. I was like, this defense is not going to win you games, but it can set a baseline, right? And what does that mean? Well, if you can set a standard to say we're the only reason we got beat is because we're just not as talented, right? Right. Like if you look at the way we competed for every inch, we were in the right spot. We made them think we were challenging them at every point. And the only reason they scored was, kind of like you said, pick on Todd again, is because we were 5'8" and they were 6'5", right? But we had our hands were in the right spots. We read the coverage. We were there. They had to compete mentally for everything, and the only reason they won was their physical ability, right? Like the guy was just faster than me, but I was step for step with him for as long as I could be there, right? And then that's your baseline. You're like, okay, this is as good as this defense can be, and they were right near that point. And so that you see mental mistakes, that's what you don't want to see, right? And you want to see perfect execution mentally, and then just physically getting beat. And then you can recruit to the physical portions, right? Hey, look, now we got a corner that can fly. I mean, 4-1, super quick, smooth hips, all the things they say about corners, right? Now you're that much better, right? Now you're not getting beat physically on that side, but maybe it's at the nose, maybe it's a linebacker, right? When they go edge to edge, the linebacker can't cover as much ground. But now we got a guy, and that guy, he can do that, and he fits into this team where they set the standard that we're not going to get beat mentally. We're going to know this game. We're going to know our checks, all this other stuff. So the only thing that the other opposition can do is beat us with talent, but we're catching up on that. Right? That's what you want. Um, so that's what we're looking for. That's where we're aiming when we're looking at North Texas. I have the game on right now. That's why I'm keep looking up. For those of you watching this on YouTube, um, you know, the a couple of these throws are well defended. ACU's looking for their guys. Step for step. Who's that? Number 5? Was that Davis? Right? No. Who is that? Who's number 5? I can't remember anymore. Terrible. Sorry, guys. I don't have it. Who's number 5? Why can't I remember? But yeah, like my point is that's what you want, and that's the real difference between like an FCS squad and a North Texas, that they don't have as many dudes to just outcompete you, and it should be that like, hey, there's 6'5" dude that can compete. You have a guy that can match up with them, and where North Texas gets the advantage is like at the third receiver, or like when a guy's winded and you need to bring in the fourth or fifth receiver to come in and run some routes. Like that guy's not going to win because he's not as good, right? Like that's where you get the plus advantage. So like sure, Sunday can win, Blaine Taylor and his guitar, they can win, but you don't want the other guys to win.
So number 5 is Tejada.
Yeah, what? Swear, man. I need more coffee. I didn't get no my coffee this morning. I can see these children walking around. Well, the thing my kid came in asking was, so I gave her a hand-me-down phone and it has games on it. And she came in to ask me if she could play a game on it. I'm like, yeah, I gave you the phone. It's go
That's
ahead,
what
do
it's
it.
for.
Yeah, I don't understand some of the questions. Anyway, so that is, I think, a good point to kind of sort of transition. Look ahead. We're near the end of the show. Um, Anything else? What do you want from this Navy game? Are you going to travel to Maryland and then just like completely flipping the field
The
for you?
opposite end of the country. I've been
Yeah,
to Maryland before, and it's all right. So I think I've gotten what I've needed to get from that state. Um,
I approve of you, Maryland.
it's a state. Oh, it's a Commonwealth. Is it a Commonwealth? I don't remember. Doesn't matter.
I don't know how you. I think I've been to Maryland once. I was in Washington D.C., right, the nation's capital, and I was like, let me just drive around a little bit in the daytime to the bad parts of town, and then I was like, we can go to Baltimore. It's not that far here, anyway. Um, but we didn't go to Baltimore, but we just kind of went and we crossed over, got to Maryland. It's right on the edge. Um, you know, I think the thing about like all those places, they feel old, right? I was like, man, I see. I feel like a pilgrim. Feel like I'm at the first colony or whatever. Yeah. So like, North Texas goes to Annapolis, plays Navy, right? Or they play? Are they playing somewhere else? I don't know. I haven't
That's a good
looked at
question.
that.
I'll look it up. But yeah, Navy
Right.
is in Annapolis.
Yeah, so they're gonna play them there on the road. Big game. Is last time North Texas played Navy again was in 2007, and that was in Denton. So big game. Big things about it. Like obviously Navy has a national following, and North Texas does not. So I think this is akin to playing Army in some of those games, where like I think the difference is that Navy at in 2007 was a better team. They were like a lot better than Army at the time. And now that's sort of flipped, or is more balanced, right? North Texas got Army on the come up when they were starting their rise, and Navy sort of fell off. They fired Ken. What's his name? Neo. I can't remember his name, but they fired that dude that was there for like 15 years after Johnson. They run the triple option, and so now they have something new. They're sort of in transition. I don't know how good they are, how good you think they are. Haven't really studied them or watched them too closely.
I've caught like parts of a few games here and there, just as I try to catch more AAC teams. It's so
Yeah,
weird to say AAC. More American Athletic games, and they're they're hard to measure, right? They're difficult to grade at this point because sometimes you'll see them, oh man, they're giving this team a run for their money, and then boom, it's done. They're gone. They kind of feel like us in certain aspects. Not 100% direct, but in the way they struggle in some areas, they're good in some areas. I think it should be a game we win. I feel just on paper, um, but it's so weird to prepare for this type of team over the course of a week. And I have been into Annapolis. I've been they're gonna be in Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. I've been over there. It's a very beautiful area. And it does have that feel of this area has history, this area has age. Not the stadium itself, but the area around it. It's pretty
Yeah,
darn cool.
yeah. So yeah, if you're making the trip out, let us know what it's like. Um, wow, it's so amazing. I'm never gonna leave.
You get some
So,
oyster shooters while you're out there. They taste terrible. They're not any good,
but
but
you
at
get
least
some.
you said you can say you did it.
It's funny. Is my wife used to be a big fan of like oysters and oyster bakes and stuff like that, and now she's like she doesn't want them. I was like, what? She's like, I don't know. I read like three people got, ate some and then they died after, and I just I'm out.
Probably because they were so bad.
I guess that's true. But like yeah, like I don't know, like somewhere around here, some guy had oysters, pretty normal, and he had some bacteria or whatever, and it's
Mm-hmm.
dead now.
So
Um,
oyster shooters are a little bit different. They're more like imagine soaking a cotton ball in hot sauce and a little bit of alcohol and then drinking it. That's
Yeah,
exactly what it
well,
feels like.
yeah, I mean, so like at Oyster Bake in San Antonio, right? They do that for Fiesta time. We'd go all the time, and they would have the little shots, and you just kind of do them that way. We would do the oysters in all the different ways there because it's Oyster Bake, right? So we do them that way, and then we also get like the big bucket and whatever, and you do a lot of work. It's like breaking a lot of rocks, and then you get no reward. I was like, this is stupid. Why does anybody do this? We're not
Just pay me to eat these.
yeah, I can see why you did it. Maybe when you're starving or something like that. Like oysters, this is food. Let's work for it. But not when I can go to McDonald's.
Hmm. Get the same quality food without having to work for it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. They just gotta open the wrapper. Just open the
Yeah,
box of the Big Mac.
it's
Anyway,
slimy and yet satisfying.
yeah. So I mean, but you gotta eat like 35 of them for then you're like, yeah, it was good. I think. I don't know. I think I'm hungry now. I worked up an appetite after working for my food the whole time. So I think that'll be fun. I've never been out there. I've been, like I said, I've been to Maryland. I haven't been to Navy, and I haven't been to a Navy game either. I've never seen them in person. Now that I think about it, I think I have had an opportunity one time when I was over there, but I got the flu, and so then I didn't do anything. So yeah, good time. Um, anyway, big game. You're right. You play a triple option team or a team that likes to run has something unusual. It sort of changes everything about it. Like the time of possession is going to be different. The way that you're going to call the game, I think, is going to be different. Like, yeah, you're going to still do a lot of the same things as North Texas's offense. However, I like Eric Morris is now a fan of calling it complimentary football when it just means being a head coach. But you're not just calling a play to go score. You're calling the play to think about your defense, right? It's in the fuller context of the game. So yeah, you're like, you know what? If we play fast, then we're not helping our defense at all, right? Because they're getting run at 3, 4, they're the whole time triple option in me
Yeah,
the whole time.
that's a good point because when we were watching North Texas play ACU this past week, I felt like you're trying to keep track of stats of like, okay, my guy's only going to get 10 carries. This other guy's, I want to target him 5 times or whatever. I'm expecting to do what, 8 to 10 drives, 8 to 12 drives, and maybe get into scoring opportunities 6 or 7 times. Um, but I feel like all that was doubled or tripled the number of drives. I lost count. It was just back and forth, back and forth. So because both teams are running the spread, they're running fast tempo, and obviously we're scoring quickly or
They
going
also played the
three and
same
out quickly.
defense. I don't know if you saw that. There's the same defensive look. There's a lot that was similar. ACU
Yeah,
plays.
yeah. And so, but that's going to be a whole different ball game, literally, next week.
Yeah, so like, I like to bring this as like a running joke now. I play rec league soccer and a few things, right? A couple old man leagues, and we had no subs, right? It was indoor playing indoor soccer at this time, and so yeah, we're not all in shape where we can run around for you know 40-minute full sprints. You know what I mean? Like nobody's 18 anymore, right? It's the 30 plus league. So specifically, so we don't have to deal with those college guys that like they can run for days. It's annoying because you're like, and the guy's like just walking up and down a field in a full sprint. You know what I mean? It seems like he's not even breathing hard. Like I hate this guy. I should run more.
Eating
But
a
I want to.
sandwich. Where you guys at?
So anyway, my point was that like, so they had possession. They had like five subs. It was annoying, and I had to jump in at goalkeeper. But like, I was like passing the ball out, and I was like, "Hey, let's keep the ball. Let's play possession football here, guys. Let's you just pass the ball around." But we had one or two guys that just like to attack, and mostly we like to just counter teams, right? Like I'll get it, throw it down the field, and we'll try to go score right away. But like bait them in, win the ball, go score. Um, but you can't play like that when you don't have any subs because it just uses up your whole. Like you can see guys like he was of two minds at the same moment. I was like no Marvin, don't, because he was like getting ready to sprint, and I was like just wait, but he was like but the space is open, I want to run. No, you're gonna be tired.
Yeah,
Just hold.
holding Art Turbo the entire time.
Yeah, that you're gonna use up all the juice, man. Just
The
hold
stamina's
on.
gone.
Yeah. I was like, so just hold on to the ball just a little bit. And I feel like you run into that problem when you play like a Navy. It's like, we got to go fast. Press the tempo, up tempo. Like, you just, hey, take a breath. You know what I mean? Let's us possess the ball a little bit. Not because there's some greater, chance of us scoring a touchdown on this drive, but so we can prevent a touchdown, right? Like you only got to win by 1 point. That's it. You don't got to win by 50 or 70. And there's no magic number of points to score that'll get you a win, right? So you just have to score one more than them. And that sometimes I think offensive coordinators think about that. Like, we got to score every drive. But you also need to score every drive if you're going as fast as you can every time because your defense can't stop every drive because now they're gassed. So finding the time, and a lot of it is like you heard Morris yesterday talking about that and about like basically runs where the defense gets to stop, the offense scores, defense, and special teams does good. Like everybody's doing their part, right? All three phases. Sound familiar?
What I want to do, watch, or what I want to see is two teams doing triple option against each other.
Well, that was the Navy Army Navy game for a while there, right? But
Yes,
yeah,
but I want to see North Texas run the triple option against them. And we've got the horses. We got the right
yeah. I mean,
people to do it.
yeah.
And I've seen us get up in formation one or two times so far this season. We could do it. I bet we could.
Yeah. I mean, yes, that would be fun. I think I'm gonna get nerdy and serious and say, well, actually, for a second, is that there's a lot that's similar, and when you look at like modern air raids and RPO stuff, that it's the same stuff. Like the inverted veer stuff is just an inverted veer run instead of doing outside and then you dive it the other way. They just flipped it. Um, there's a lot of triple option type concepts there where the quarterback is the most important dude, and they're reading a guy, and instead of just maybe pitching it, they're just throwing it. I mean, I just watched ACU basically do that right now. They just ran two guys, and he did the thing, and he ran up and couldn't throw it, and so then he ran. Triple option right there. Um, it should be fun. I think North Texas can win this game. We'll get a little bit more into Navy. I think this week we're gonna try to do a midweek podcast. It might be just me doing that one, but we'll get a little bit closer into it and talk more about Navy. But I'm excited about it. We're gonna test Eric Morris, right? This is the thing. This is why he was hired, is to see how well he can compete in the AAC, right?
How well
So
he can prepare and game
yeah,
plan. That's something that I always thought we had a weakness in.
yeah, and it was like last year. To Seth Luttrell's credit, like we knocked him for a lot of things, and I more like to say is like we just accurately described what was happening. Um, is that we felt like the joke like, man, Eric Moore sure got him today. Like they weren't ready. You gave him 2 weeks to prepare. He's gonna get you. You know what I mean? He's gonna find something in there. It's not really something that we said about Seth Luttrell teams. And but I would say like last year that they did a good job of game planning. There was a lot of stuff to like, and I think again the two highlighted points of that season was North Texas versus or North Texas at UTSA, North Texas at Western Kentucky, the two CUSA finalists from the year before went to their house and went 1-1, right? And almost if you took a peek at the score at in the fourth quarter with a minute left, you're like, man, they're about to be 2-0 in these two games, right? That's how close it was, and there was a lot to like, and some drop passes here, some slip ups there, some missed blocks over here. North Texas maybe is or hey maybe a better stop on fourth and inches or whatever it was, and North Texas wins, right? So full credit to Seth Luttrell for that, right? But I think that's not why he lost, right? His job, right? It was because of the championship game performance later on in December. The championship game performance against FAU and Lane Kiffin. The bowl games, Myrtle Beach Bowl, Frisco Bowl, right? The Frisco Classic. The thing about the Frisco Classic, I remember my grandfather telling me all the times they used to play. Gather the family. It's time for the Frisco Classic, he would say. Let's all get together and watch it. Family tradition.
The most classic of all the classics.
Yeah, there's nothing more classic than a Frisco Classic. I think that they were playing the Frisco Classic before they founded Navy over there. That's what I heard. And so all those bowl games, that's why he lost, right? Where you tune in, you're like, man, App State running 500 yards against us. Oh man, Utah State murderizing us. Oh, crap. Who else was it? Troy, in the New Orleans Bowl. Um, that's why Seth Luttrell was let go, right? It was those things, and not so much how he did last year against North Texas. I mean, against UTSA and Western Kentucky. Too many names running through my head. So is it Moore's not going to get fired this year, right? Unless he does something egregious, like he does a Mel Tucker or something like that.
Or
Let's keep his
something
phone.
illegal.
Yeah, let's keep his phone away from him just in case, right? just in case you don't want to doing a Mel Tucker anywhere. So yeah, he's not going to get fired. And so the question is like, how do we judge him? Hey, yeah, is the baseline there? Are they prepared? Are they right there? And you're just like, man, they just need some more talent, and then we can judge him on that next year when he has time to get the talent in, right? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're done. This has been the Mean Green Nation podcast. Thanks for listening. Go to the Substack, click subscribe, buy the subscription, and it helps keep it going. This stuff we're doing it. I think I used to joke and say that it's everybody's third favorite website. I think we might have dropped to four. Because no, there's not another site, but we're at least we're not everybody's favorite Twitter account anymore. I think a couple have passed us. I haven't used Twitter in a little bit. I saw a couple other guys have more followers. So there you go, taking it over, man.
Too old.
Yeah, I don't have the Riz, you know.
Whatever that means.
There's a point where you just kind of lose it, right? And you're just like, whatever. I saw the thing. They're like millennials, how millennials fell back in fashion. I was like, I think they just became parents, and then you're it's weird, and you see you're like a real fashionable like mom or dad. You're like, what are you doing? Don't you got some kids to take care of? Because your kid looks like he's running into the creek there. You're taking a selfie, but that's just my opinion. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're done. Thanks for listening. Go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.